So basically what we're going to try to do is to make you switch to the dark side. The oil side, should I say. So here we have a bright and colorful set of panelists. Don, you?
Yeah, Win.
When?
Yeah.
Will be our representative from the professional world. And Noah, Anthony Noah.
Correct.
Tony, and Miriam will be our representative from SPE, and Mary will be our upperclassman, professionalized, everything kind of person
Mary's
representative.
involved in a lot of things.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
So are all of you.
Yeah, so I will allow them to introduce themselves to you guys. Mary,
My name's Mary. I'm in my last semester here at U of H, Petroleum Engineering. I was an officer for the Society of Petrophysicists and Wildlife Analysts. I'm a member of the Petroleum Engineering Honor Society, a member of SPE, AADE. There's a lot to get involved in here. It's a wonderful school, so we're very excited.
My name is Miriam. I'm currently a junior. I'm involved with SPE. I'm in Pi Epsilon Tau, which is the Petroleum Engineering Honor Society. I'm in Tau Beta Pi, which is the Engineering Honor Society. And I'm going to be president next year of Pi Epsilon Tau. So.
My name's Anthony Nowak, but usually most of my friends call me Tony, so you guys can call me Tony. That's cool. I'm the president for the Society of Petroleum Engineers. I'm currently somewhere between a junior and a senior, and I can field any questions about school life, professional life, student involvement, and Promise. Many of you guys are familiar with that.
I'm Don, graduated here from U of H under the Petroleum Engineering program in May 2015. I've been out working for about almost 3 years now, come June. Work for Oilfield Data Services, which is a reservoir production consulting company, so pretty much tell other oil and gas companies how much oil and gas they have in the ground and the best way to pull it out.
thank you. So I'd like to start with the first question to you guys. What do you think petroleum engineering is?
Ooh, this is a good one.
Finding methods, new methods, or cheaper ways to extract oil from any means possible,
Okay.
to maintain and sustain the oil supply while making sure that you merge it by just making it more economical for oil.
That's a great answer, but you missed one word. That's safety.
That's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. What was your name?
Javier.
Javier? Okay, thanks, Javier. So you're close enough. If one of the panelists would like to answer that question for us, Tony?
Oh, okay. The
Yeah.
question was,
What
what
is
is
petroleum
petroleum engineering? Well, funny enough, I didn't really have an answer to this question until my third year of school, because it seems like petroleum engineers tend to do a lot. You really hit all the marks. Petroleum engineers are concerned with finding innovative solutions to complex problems involving getting oil out of the ground in a safe and economic manner. Do you guys want to expand on that? Touch on anything particularly?
I think what's really cool is that when you're in petroleum engineering, when you start working, you'll either be like a production engineer, a reservoir engineer, drilling. So you can go into many different fields, and I think that was really cool when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
So.
If you guys have any questions on the specific disciplines, we'd love to answer those questions too. But yeah, it's petrophysical, drilling, production, and reservoir. Yeah.
And then exploration and
Yeah.
jack of all trades.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One thing that hasn't been hit on that should be hit on is that the two main concerns with petroleum engineering is, Tony pointed out, safety and then environmental safety and concern as well. If we mess up the world, we can't produce from it.
Mhm.
So one thing that you'll be really surprised to hear, and one thing I was a little concerned with, was that maybe the people wouldn't be so concerned about the environment, but they really are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to add on to the safety environment, the oil and gas industry gets painted on, this kind of, wrecking the environment and everything, but a lot of scientific study has been done on these kind of safety measures, these BOP, those blowout preventer stacks, calculating, what's the worst case that can happen and things that can mitigate through it. So the government and the regulatory kind of body that oversees all of this does have a pretty strict guideline for you to follow, and you're under pretty hard scrutiny too under the governmental bodies.
Thank you. So I will open up the floor for you guys to ask whatever question you would like to the panelists. You can refer to them with the name that they give, and if you can't, just ask them. Yeah. Introduce yourself and your major, and then your question.
Okay, my name is Floyd. I'm studying chemical engineering, and my question is, like initially, I wanted to go into petroleum engineering. My dad works in the oil and gas field, and so that's kind of like around the household. But my concern is, and this is a question for anybody, where do you think the job market is going with like the emergence of like renewable energy and that transition from vehicles being like dependent on oil to being like dependent on things like electricity?
So, if you guys don't mind, every big major exploration and production company releases an energy outlook, which shows where they think the energy industry is going to go into the future. And BP just released theirs, and I think they said by 2050 is going to be the time when oil will actually begin a significant decline. Now, if you look where we are now and up to 2050, that's enough time for a really reasonable career. So I would say that now is the right time to get into petroleum engineering. But after now, like maybe 20 years from now, I don't think the recommendation would be there, unless you guys have anything to add on.
One thing that I found that was really interesting, we were part of Energy Day here in Houston, and we were looking into what all aspects of life do petroleum products and byproducts affect. And there is not a single industry that we do not supply. And I'm not just talking about fuel and gas to get to one point to another, including the vegetables and everything like that, even organic ones in the produce section. They're coated in products to keep them looking better longer and stay fresh in order to be able to get them to the market. I mean, so we have our hands in like every industry. So I don't think it's going to go away, but I think that there's going to be what really needs to be a push, and what is a push, I think, and just my opinion in our industry, is technologies to make it more efficient and more safer, and to be able, because at the end of the day, every business is out to make money. It's bottom line. You can't pay your bills, you can't be in business. But I think that renewable energy is a great thing. And a lot of companies, even big major oil companies, have projects in renewable energies to help kind of, alleviate some of the burden of electricity generation.
Exactly. It's also not a oil versus renewables
Yeah,
world. It's
it
all just
shouldn't be.
about energy.
Yeah.
Together, they all supply the same thing. And also to touch on the multiple industries, solar panels have pieces of plastic in them too, so you need oil to have solar panels.
Yeah, to go on that too, oil and gas companies actually have a pretty good amount of the budget spending into researching on renewables and all that good stuff too. And I think they're one of the major contributors to that. And talking about the job market, well, I think it's gonna last for quite a while because with the current inventory, yeah, if you just keep the current inventory that we have now and you project out, or how much oil is left and how much is gonna run out, then of course the job market will stabilize and then dip down because there's just not enough inventory. But in terms of the Gulf of Mexico and all the other onshore projects, I think it was like a few days ago where the Gulf of Mexico just had its new block into deeper waters. They're called lease blocks up for sale. So pretty much the government selling those blocks to other companies, and companies are bidding on it. So I think over time there's going to be larger and larger inventory, whether it be going out deeper into the Gulf of Mexico. There's still the East Coast and the West Coast. Well, I wouldn't say the West Coast because they have really strict laws in California on where to drill that. But even on the East Coast, on Virginia and near Florida too, there's some really good reservoirs, really good gas reservoirs down there that can be produced for quite a long time. Talking about 1 TCF, 1 trillion cubic feet of gas there, and all the shale business boom too. That's going to keep on going because that's massive inventory that we have too. And then the Arctic is opening up, Alaska drilling is opening up too, and most of these companies have their fingers, their paws on other places too, like in the North Sea in Europe and Australia too. So there's still a good amount of inventory left, and I think it's gonna go on for quite a while, because as I said before, most of the main contributors to these renewable resources and research are these big, oil and gas companies, the Exxon and Shells, because you can't have all your eggs in one basket. These oil companies still have to hedge and make money somehow, so they're just hedging themselves to be. So I think there's definitely a place for anyone to be in the oil and gas industry, whether it be upstream or downstream, or midstream too. Just be plenty of jobs in the future.
I also wanted to add, last summer, I talked to someone from Chevron, and he was saying that he doesn't think that there's gonna be enough petroleum engineers for the future, because the workforce is really old, and they're all gonna retire soon. So once they're gone, we need to fill the jobs, right? So I think it'll be okay.
It's very true. Now, it was unfortunate for us that we got in right when oil crashed from $120 a barrel down to 20. But it's on the way up, and we've already seen at career fairs and such now that a lot of these major E&P companies and even some of the smaller companies are in a hiring crunch. New projects are coming online even as we speak, and they're going to need more people to fill the roles to operate these jobs.
And I totally agree with that. Where I work at, all the engineers, the people who actually run, the business, they're old, and there's this one guy, he manages operations. He's like, I want to retire, Marie, you need to learn everything I'm doing so that I can retire. That's the truth, because people are afraid of the fact that the business is kind of cyclic. So when they need petroleum engineers, there's not enough, and so the salary go very high. If you know that we have one of the highest paid in all of the engineering departments. So yeah, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
If it's job opportunities or outlook, that shouldn't be the one thing that you worry about. You're gonna have jobs.
So,
my name is Mohammed, and I chose psychology about 2 years ago. And the reason I chose it was because of the fall in oil prices and all that. So it is unexpected, but I want some opinions on that, because when I chose psychology over petroleum engineering, my dad's a petroleum engineer, and it kind of runs in the family as well. And I have uncles and stuff that are in the Middle East as well. So when they flooded the market with that, and we were down for 2 years, hundreds of thousands of people lost their jobs. So that was my, that's what I looked at before choosing petroleum engineer. Otherwise, right out of high school, that's what I wanted to become. Now, my only question is, what are the outlooks for the future? Because as you said, it's very cyclic, it goes up and down, and I don't know, I think before we've had about 2 more depressions before this one. So that's what I'm kind of asking, because as you said, there are many fields in there, and you can, be diversified and go into each and every one, but the jobs, how is that in the future? Because even now, Schlumberger had a freezing hold for hiring hold for 2 years. So even now, they're just barely trying to, put some people back on. So us getting in here now, and with still the sanctions and whatnot all over the world, how is us getting in the petroleum engineering, world as of right now to the next couple of years?
Well, okay. My opinion with this is, as with any field, you need to make yourself attractive to and worthy of maintaining employment and gaining employment. What that means is you will be working very hard. You will exploit all the opportunities at the university, like undergraduate research, getting to know your professors, also staying current in technology. Learn a coding language, learn Python, learn R, learn VBA really well. Because that's where it's going to be going, is with technology. So you want to make yourself attractive. I think that, or at least I have to have faith in the industry, that if you're willing to work hard and have integrity in your actions, and be willing to continuously learn, that you will be okay. I have friends that stayed in the oil and gas industry through the downturn after, thousands upon thousands of people were let go. And while there are good people to let go, if you're willing to stay competitive, and be willing to be flexible and fluid in a sense, then you should be good. Like, I mean, I don't know, you guys, you're the one in the industry right now.
Yeah.
the one with the job
Yeah.
Let me ask because most of the companies, they trimmed off the fat, so they kept their most precious, employees. So my dad's a directional girl. So out of, thousands of them, luckily he was the one that was kept, and they cut his salary, down by like 50 to 60%.
Yeah.
So the day rate was cut down, but he was still there because of his, because of how long he's worked for the company. So people that weren't that much, with experience or whatnot, I understand that part, but even some good people were let go. So on that basis, even if you stick around with them and you still lose a job, then what good is that industry,
Yeah, so, I mean, it goes along with every industry too, like the tech industry, right? They have, Intel has, a really big company, really good CPUs, but every 2 years they have a trimming, every 2 years they have layoffs too. So, I don't think you're gonna find an industry with no layoffs at all, but particular to the oil and gas industry with these massive layoffs, a part of it has to do with kind of greed, right? Well, greed is an aggressive term for it, but oil companies were too ambitious in what they wanted to do, right? So they were forecasting, all right, this is how we see ourselves in the future. We want to be this big, and let's go and let's make a path for us to grow that big with the oil prices constant. So that's always going to be around, and the comment with even if you're really good, you might be the brightest person in the room, but you sold yourself to the point where you are the brightest of yourself in the room, and you have that big of a salary. At that point, all these companies have it. They all have bean counters, right? They count all the little beans on their tab, and then scratch out just the highest number, right? They bring in these layoff consultants, if you want to say, and they say, all right, can you go through and trim any fat we have on our budget, right? So those consultants don't know you, and you don't know them. They just see you as a dollar sign on the line, all right? So this is kind of getting kind of grim and gloom, but with that, even if you are let go, you still have a pretty good compensation package, and there's other companies around that are willing to pick people up too. So even if you work for these giant companies, you'll still have a job somewhere, but that somewhere might not be with the same company that you're looking for. You'll be in a different job, have new opportunities, new challenges, work for a smaller, leaner company that moves a lot quicker. You might get with another company that has a setup where you partner into their program, so every well they drilled, right? If it's successful, you reap the benefits for that particular well. If it doesn't, then you hurt a little bit because everybody has skin in the game. Everybody is out there trying to make money, per se, trying to drill wells. But with you, I don't know, this is kind of a long-winded, kind of meandering question, but hopefully it answers your question, saying, yeah, you might be switching jobs, and that goes with what Mary says. You have to be flexible and fluid. You might not be comfortable in another job because you have new wells, you have new opportunities, you have new things to do because you're in a new company now. So I hope that answers your question, kind of, sort of.
One last question.
Yeah.
From each of you, I would like an opinion on the forecast of the next 5 years.
In terms of jobs or oil prices?
In terms of jobs.
In terms
Oil
of jobs.
prices, you can't really.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Anytime, anybody can do anything.
Those are closely linked, but since we had this kind of built, the bottom falling out, and we're starting to climb again, and it's still relatively fresh in everybody's memory, right? It's not like it's been 10 years and everybody's forgotten about the last oil crash, right? So it's all pretty fresh, all pretty new. These, I think the companies will start hiring again, but hiring in a more, I guess, sensible pace, right? We're not gonna, go in and sweep up all the petroleum engineering students from U of H or all the petroleum engineering students from A&M, UT, right?
That'd be
So,
nice though.
yeah, that would be nice, that would be nice, but I think they're gonna go on a more methodical pace, and they'll track the oil prices with it too. So everybody's, what is it right now, 60, 65, I stopped keeping track a long time ago, yeah, it's about 60, 65, the general consensus in the oil and gas industry is that, everybody's getting comfortable at this oil price, everybody starting to believe at this, starting to believe in these oil prices, and that they're not believing anymore that tomorrow they wake up and it'll all fall to pieces. So everybody's having some type of confidence, increasing their budget, doing more university recruiting, doing more university events with schools. So I think it's gonna go up, but not as quickly as we would like, but it's still gonna go up, and then I don't know when it's gonna flatten out, or if it will ever flatten out until the next oil crash. So I think the trajectory is gonna go more along parabolic, kind of like an exponential growth, but with a longer tail instead of the tail end that kicks up.
I think it's only up from here, to answer your question. I mean, I'm a student, I don't have as much industry experience necessarily to reflect on, to speak on that necessarily,
Just
but.
an opinion.
Yeah, right, it's an opinion. I think it's only up from here. And to speak on what Don said, a lot of companies are getting more comfortable around this price range. Over the last 4 years, a big focus in the industry has been reducing the bottom line. So when oil was at $120 a barrel, what companies would like to do is they would try new risky technology, which they still continue to do, but with a little bit more conservative mindset going into it. And the profit that they made per barrel, the profits were much smaller because the price per barrel to produce was so high. But now it's the whole focus has been reducing that bottom line so that they can produce barrels at a lower premium. And with that, companies are still able to make money off $60 to $65 a barrel, which is where they're at now. And then to answer your first question, going back very briefly, in the event that you do get laid off, a great thing that you can have to help you is your network. Things like LinkedIn and professional societies like SPE, ABE, SPWLA, these organizations and the people that you meet within the industry, you're all in this together, and a lot of them have your back. Like for instance, SPE has this thing called MIT, which is Members in Transition, where they host informational sessions and technical sessions to help keep members on top of it, despite not working in the industry, so that when they go for their next interview, they'll still be fresh, they'll still be on it. So that'll help a lot. So yeah, only up from here.
I think if you have to, like Mary said, you have to be proactive, and the more things you do during your college career, companies are gonna think, oh, they're gonna do stuff whenever, they're gonna be active whenever they're working. So I think as long as you're active, you do things that are meaningful during your undergrad, you'll get picked up. There's no reason not to. You need to really like for example, go to the career fair, yeah, but if you're not active in an organization, if you can't talk about what you've done, what does that mean? Or you can go to other conferences. I went to the SWEET conference this year and it was one of the best experiences ever. People are hiring. You just have to really look for it. So I think, yeah.
So as a senior looking for a job. I've gone to many networking events. I have signed up for every single career website I think out there. But I think the most meaningful, like everybody's been saying, is your network and people that you know. And I mean, personally, I can say I've done all this stuff, I've shown that I really want this industry, and I like this industry. I think that, he's right. It's not, they know what happened in the past. People have learned from their mistakes with, how quickly that bubble can pop. And I think that one cool thing about our industry is we continuously learn and grow from that and learn from our mistakes and go, okay, this didn't work out for us in the beginning. This happened in the 80s too. I mean, so it's constantly learning, and we always test our limitations and stuff like that because that's how you innovate. But at the end of the day, I think with the job market, you get what you put in. And I do think that our industry is going to continue to grow, like everyone else has said here. but like they said, it maybe not as fast of a rate as it was in the past. So, but it's a viable production, and like I said, if things are willing to be fluid and go from production to drilling, because I can guarantee you, what you think you're gonna get a job in and what you're passionate about might not be what you get a job, your first job in. But if you're willing to continue to learn and, you know, take it as an extension of, you know, I am now becoming more valuable because I know some production. I know some reservoir engineering. I know this. If you're willing to do field work too, that's another big thing. Because there's no way, I mean, I managed a bar in Austin, and there was no way that I did as well as I did without starting from being a busser, a waitress, you know, back of the house. There's no way that I would have run that bar well without, you know, working my way up. So.
Your name, your major, and your question.
My name is Didon. I'm a chemical engineering major, and my question. So you guys have mentioned upstream, midstream, and downstream. I want to know the difference between those
That is
three.
a good question. So upstream is just concerned with the exploration and production of that oil, getting it out of the ground. Midstream is all about transporting it, and downstream is about refining it. So that would be where a lot of chemical engineers would be in downstream, working in plants, taking the crude oil and converting it into anything, gasoline, plastics, all that jazz. Does anyone have anything to expand on that?
So petroleum engineering isn't just pulling oil out of the ground. It's also.
It's really focused on upstream though. I gotta let you know that though. Everything that you learn is about the geology, you know, it really pertains to upstream. Now you can get into the oil and gas industry and then you can move to another section of the industry from there. But going in, a lot of your skill sets will be towards upstream. But upstream, however, is the most exciting part of the industry. It's where all the money's spent, where all the risks are taken.
Yeah, pretty much upstream is, if you think, you know, from a wellhead, right? So everything 10 feet above the ground, and then everything below the ground is upstream. And those long, big pipelines, you know, that run from Canada all the way down to Texas or something like that. You know, all those big pipelines are pretty much midstream, you know, going
Also
from one place
includes
to
like
another.
tankers, right, as well?
Tankers, yeah.
It's in the transportation.
Yeah, tankers and everything, and then downstream, that big refinery in like Baytown and everything, all that process and stuff like that is all downstream. So what year are y'all in chemical engineering? Freshman, sophomore, first year? Okay, cool, okay.
Is everyone here around like the freshmen
Yeah.
everywhere? Is anyone not? Oh, okay, cool.
You guys should definitely, if you all have the opportunity, Tuesdays or free days at the Houston Museum of Natural Science, they just put up
Yes.
this amazing Weiss Energy Hall exhibit on the 4th floor. If you guys want to learn about all different energy, renewable, including oil and gas, what he made me think of was that map that they have that shows you all the networks of
Yeah.
pipelines, and it's like, wow, I didn't realize there were this many. I mean, and you get to learn, and they actually have you do like a, what's it called? This on where you get to see how the separator works with the different oil and gas, and then the exploration with the seismic. They actually have this machine where you can crank it and you can see how it reacts. And it's a pretty cool exhibit. So just
That's a
that
great,
way.
yeah, if you wanna know what petroleum engineering is, just go there,
Yeah.
take an hour, grab some lunch, you know,
Oh,
hang
there's
out.
cool rides too. There's 2.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I totally forgot about it. I have to third that. Yeah, it has a pretty good comprehensive take on the oil and gas industry in that Houston Natural Science Museum.
Yeah.
Very nice museum. Love it.
Go ahead.
So,
First off, my name is Javier. My major is mechanical engineering, and my question to you, since you were in the industry, give me like a kind of like a detail of how the industry is like from the inside. You worked in oil and gas field, correct?
yeah. So you're talking about like a day in the life, like
Yeah.
day-to-day operations?
Yeah.
Okay, well, since I'm with a consulting company, so I'm just gonna talk about one particular client, right, and specifically pertaining to the Gulf of Mexico. So they have about 4 wells right now, deep water wells, about 20,000 feet deep, and about 800 feet of water. So pretty deep stuff. So since they're a small company that doesn't have a lot of people to look at these wells. So my job for them is to be their in-house engineer and look after these wells that they do. So I mainly just look at pressure data, pressure and rate data. So those are basically the two things I look at all day long. I look at, you know, all these curves and all these lines, and then I tell them, how, you know, how good or bad their well is, how big or small oil and gas reservoir they have down there, and if we're talking about future developments, do I need more than one well in this reservoir? And if I do, where should I put it, right? Because the number one way to go bankrupt as an oil and gas company, besides, you know, the oil prices going down, is drilling too many wells that you don't need. Right, so you drill 10 wells and you only need 2, then that's a lot of wasted money that you just spent because you didn't get that out anyway. So I have to talk about, you know, where are we gonna place these wells, and then if I'm losing pressure, I'm losing energy in the reservoir, then I have to think about what method can I do to supply more energy to the reservoir. So should I inject water in there to keep kind of feeding the reservoir to keep pushing the oil out of there, or is it not economical to drill a brand new well just to push water in? So I pretty much sit this posture in front of the computer, and I look at these lines, and then I give them reports on what I just pretty much talk about. And let me know if you want more detail, because it's just like kind of a broad overview of like pretty much what I do every day.
I can also like just add just a little bit. I think you're doing more reservoir.
Yeah, mainly reservoir and production.
Yeah, I do production engineering, so not so much about what's down there, but about how to get it out. So basically what I do is, we're onshore, we don't have any offshore wells, and it's a smaller company, so we have mainly older wells. So those wells that have not so much pressure. So we know they don't have much pressure, so we're trying to get the oil as quick as possible before it dies. So basically, I go in there, review the work that has been done, the type of production and completion. Do I have to define completion?
You might want to.
Yeah. The type of, okay, so let's say how the well has been produced before, what kind of machine has been on it. If it's a pump, what kind of pump. If it's a plunger, what kind of plunger, you know, how the plunger works. If it has been acidized, the formation has been acidized, you know, or fractured, you know, hydraulic fracture, right? If those things have been done, how effective they were, can we repeat them, or is the well having a lot of water due to the dropping pressure, because we do have oil wells, so we are definitely going to have after critical rates type of flow. So how all of this works, and pick the best way or the best equipment to put on these well, or if it just needs a compressor to, you know, to pull the oil out. What is the best option for that well to be produced as quick as possible? So it's definitely different.